So I'm going to show you how I paint on shingles. I use water, coffee, instant coffee mixed with water, and black acrylic with water, and maybe a little bit of just black acrylic. I'm going to start with a pencil to draw my branch on the shingles, some brushes. I can show you on a sample the effects of those three liquids. If you put water, the wood already reacts to water and change a bit of coloration. So the coffee, but of course this will disappear when it's dry. So the coffee will stay more permanently and add coloration to the wood without disturbing the quality of the wood, its texture. And finally, the black acrylic. So my range of coloration is from the original color of the wood to coffee, so something a little bit more brown, and a darker value. That's all. It's very simple. Clean my brush. So I always look at the quality of the wood, its composition, and go along with it. So you see here there's 3 knots. So I could do a curve here and go along this way, more straight here. The same way on the top here, go more straight. Here I could decide actually to go more straight all along here. That's very simple. I'm not trying to be imaginative in my drawing here, to more draw to express the specificity of the shingles. So I'm going to start with water that I apply in the middle. So why am I doing this? The shingle is flat like any kind of images, and the intention of the artist is always to bring the 3rd dimension missing on the flat surface. So the 3rd dimension of the branch is the fact that it's circular. So if you look at my finger, which is also circular here, you notice that it takes the light differently. The brighter light will always be on the top of the finger, and it slowly gets darker on the side of the finger. So I'm going to apply this same notion to trick the eyes, to make you believe that you're looking at a branch, a circular branch on the flat surface of the shingles. So that's why here I put water. So I want to keep the lighter value of the wood. On the side, I'm going with the coffee to get a little bit browner, and finally on the edge to get darker. And you notice, because the light comes from a different angle, it's actually less dark on this side, it's darker on the other side. And I'm going to follow this same approach. So the water in the middle, and it's kind of a watercolor technique, so the water will help to create a sense of gradation between the 3 values. So now I move to the coffee, and I go on the edge. So I go along my line. You see how it's beautiful. It's bringing a stronger sense of all the beauty of the material, its texture. And now I take back a bit of water to create a sense of gradation between the 2 values. Now I'm going to do the other side. So more I work toward the water, less I have coffee on my brush. And so that's the best way to create a sense of gradation. And I can always go back to the water and put it back because the wood has a tendency to absorb very quickly the water and to dry. Not very quickly, actually. So now I'm ready to apply a little bit of black on the edge to give the sense of really the third dimension. And here we know actually it's an illusion. But working in the context of something real, that's what is interesting here. So I can put some water now and be sure that I give a good sense of gradation. Here we go. Now I'm going to do the other side. Maybe I'm going to turn here to be my hand. You see how I'm losing the black on my brush here. If you have done watercolor in the past, you will sense exactly what I'm doing here. It's a traditional technique in some way, outside of the fact that I'm working in relation to an existing material or image or reality. So it's not the white paper or the white canvas. So there it is. Voila. So in some way I could say that I am concerned with our imagination. Our imagination is a very strong tool and we always look at it very positively, especially in the artistic world. Nothing wrong to have a lot of imagination. But through the work I develop, painting on manufactured wood and bringing back the tree on it, I realized that I was lowering my imagination, neutralizing myself to give more the expression toward nature. And I think we could all agree that in some way that's the direction we're going to have to take in regard to the concern over time. The 20th century was an incredible imagination for creative, aspect of any form of life, transformation of life. And I heard some philosophers saying that maybe the 21st century will not be as creative in the same sense, but more are in a way that we are going to have to fix everything we have done toward nature. So in some way the idea of healing will be much more in our mind now when we are using our imagination. We can understand everything has to change to create new paradigm. And being an image maker, I'm thinking what are the kind of images we need to develop now that will bring this sense of change. So this is what I have been developing since the late 70s. intuitively. And I feel like today it's becoming more obvious that we have to go in that direction, that we are not in control of the material we use from nature for own ego, on own expression. So we have to be much more humble in that sense. So through the century, we went to a lot of variation in regard to what is an image, or what we call art. It was an icon, for example, a long time ago, not even signed by an artist. Nobody cared about who painted the image, the icon, but care about what it represents, and usually a religious, form. The Renaissance shifted to the sense of aesthetic. So suddenly it was not the fact that we look at the representation of God, for example, but we look at who painted the God and the signature. So it shifted to aesthetic, concern, and less about religious, concern. Today the image is shifting to a broader form of communication. So it's still artistic, but I think it lost something essential. It's more a commodity or decoration. And it's lost its symbolic power. I always refer to the drawing in the cave. And they didn't do this to decorate their habitats. Actually, they went into the dark, outside of reality for some reason. And they needed to survive. So the image, the symbol of the image, to represent what was a concern in some way, helped them to overcome death. The same way, let's say, an African tribe doing rituals involving all the tribe for several days because they need the rain. And if they didn't do this ritual, the rain will not come. That sounds very essential, and that makes sense for me. Today, the image doesn't make sense anymore. Anyway, now we're all image maker, and we all enjoy, sharing images on Instagram, on Facebook. But does it resolve anything in regard to our concern of the time? I don't think so. On the contrary. So we have to regain the essentiality of the image. And my idea was always to go back to the source. It's in my nature to, when I have a problem, to look at when the problem started and before the problem existed, what was better. So to resource yourself in some way. So the wood, I look at it, it's a piece of wood, it's not anymore a tree. It's a problem because it's a destruction. It's a destructive, material. So I look at the source, which is the origin of the material, and I'm going to express that. That's all what I do. I don't know if it resolves anything, but at least it changed my attitude toward nature so that I don't want to use anything from nature for my own purpose. But I learned to be more in communication like that and being more humble. And I found out when I started working with Shingles, I notice now that actually, you know, we call this a piece of wood. So if it's damaged, if it's not proper for what we want to use it for, we're going to disregard it and say, okay, it's not good. So we are constantly, as human beings, creating the sense, you know, what is good and what is bad for us. But when you're starting painting on wood, I make the effort to paint on any kind of wood, even without choosing too much them for the quality. And I realized quickly that you cannot find two pieces of wood identical. The same way we could say that we cannot find two human beings identical, practically. So it's remarkable to develop this sense that suddenly I'm going to do always the same thing on any piece of shingles, but every time I'm going to do it something different. So this is something we're very much attached to as artists, to develop something unique. I always question why I have this desire to do something that nobody else is doing. So something unique, something that will belong just to me. I think because we had the idea to be all the same. It would be pretty boring, actually. So I'm going to show you now images of shingles I painted, and I just put them together on the wall in different contexts. And it's remarkable, you know, you can look at all of them. It's very boring in the composition, but each one is unique. Each one has its expression, its particularity.
Or the coffee. I think it's the coffee.
What's weird?
Oh, it's sudsing up a little bit.
I think it's like the coffee.
I think it's because you're whipping it so much.
And you're
shaking it up. You're
I
whisking
actually
it.
didn't whip it in there. I was brushing it on and all of a sudden it just went crazy.
Well, I guess they could be.
So you're having fun? Everybody's having fun?
Yes. I'm
Good.
having fun. It's
Good.
a very dark piece, so it looks like
Is it magical?
Oh,
yeah.
God, yes.
It is magical, huh?
Goodness, yes.
Yes.
Are we gonna keep these?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to keep this, of course. That will not fail. No, it's mine. I'm going to exhibit them. No, they are mine. That's my shingle. Come on, that's my shingle. That's not your tree. That's your image, but that's my shingle. So I keep the shingle.
I would be glad I could put mine in the exhibit.
Huh?
We painted it.
Yeah, but this is my shingle.
Yeah, but you.
So how are we going to do it?
Because you gave it to us to paint on.
Okay. So, you're going to keep the shingles. That's fine.
Wow, this tree.
That's fine.